What did your friends tell you about your strange interests in Russian?
Not at all
literature,
strange.
Russian language?
People in America love Russia, and they love Russian literature. Talk about common ground. We love all these things. Brigada, you know, the Sasha, the guy.
Sasha Billy. We must say that the PR specialist of RGD must hire you.
Я не говорю по-русски. Я не говорю по-английски. Я говорю по-рок-н-роллски.
Thank you very, very, very much for this
Thank you. This
very
has been
interesting conversation.
Yeah, взаимно, очень приятно, очень круто. Мне очень нравится это радио «Звезда».
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks. Now.
Hello, dear friends. This is Dynamic Spectrum Talks podcast. I am Anna Shafran and my colleague Yuri Lindre.
Hi.
In the studio, with the help of our esteemed guests from different countries, we are looking for the common ground for what unites us all, the peoples of the world. And in general, we are very similar. We all have the same aspirations. We all solve the same problems. And in this sense, music is something that is that can be understood and welcomed by absolutely everyone. There are no state borders or political barriers for music. Classical music of the past and popular music of the present are loved all over the world, regardless of language, religion, or tradition. To talk about the unique supranational phenomenon of music and personal experiences of life in different countries, including Russia, we invited American musician and composer Alex Carlin. Alex, great to have you in our studio.
Привет, hello. Great to be here. Super place.
Alex, great that you are sharing this day with us. And before I'm going to ask you the most important question, which rock music is better, American or Russian?
Well, if you say that, the first thing that comes to my mind is like the United States is the United States of rock and roll. I mean, that's what it is. And you hand anybody walking down the street a guitar in USA, and it's a good chance he's just going to rock out and just play fantastic guitar. Whereas in Russia, it's more like if you give any Russian a pen, he will write a fantastic story. It's just writing. They're great musicians here too, but I'm just saying it's more, for me, I've noticed USA, it's more the guitar thing. In Russia, it's more the text thing. It's more the writing. It's more that, so I'm just saying that, therefore, in USA, because of the, slavery, bringing black people to America led to rock and roll, the blues and jazz. So it's just a different history.
Alex, you just broke the quest. You destroyed the quest completely. So let's continue with the second question. Tell us a few words about your life path. You're a rock and roll musician, American origin, and now you're in Russia.
Well, yeah. And it's partly, and so just to continue that thought, in a sense, yes, in America, all this incredible music was developed and happened, and I'm so lucky that I was a kid and surrounded by black people and Mexicans and white people all playing rock and blues and jazz, classical. I was learning classical piano. But then, as I got, older, and so I began to realize, well, wait a minute, other countries can actually be even more fun and more rock and roll than USA, as USA became a bit more controlled and everything suburban and nice and quiet. Then other countries, well, wait a minute, and I realized the further east I went, so I'd be in Europe, and I'd go from, I loved Western Europe, but then you get to Eastern Europe, and it's even crazier, and then you get to Russia, and wow, and to me, I'll tell you about my first experiences in Russia, but as I kept even going further east in Russia. I got to the Dalny Vostok. I got to Kamchatka. To me, somehow, the further east, the better. For performing rock, for doing rock, for living that spirit is I find it rock and roll is in Russia right now.
Go east, not like go west
Yes.
by Pet Shop Boys.
Exactly. I mean, I still love California, but the bars close at what, midnight, 2:00. I don't know. It's crazy. I'm a night person. You can't really exist when all the bars and things close so early. It doesn't make sense.
A few words about your life. How did you get to become a musician?
No, it's like I was growing up in, California, Berkeley, San Francisco in the 1960s, all around, it's like there's just everywhere. Like we formed a band when I was like 9 years old. This is the natural thing to do. It's just everybody's playing and you're surrounded by incredible music, and it's just, there's no alternative. That's just what it was. So that, and, the Beatles came in and Jimi Hendrix, and these music started appearing in your life, and there was nothing better than that.
By the way, you graduated from Berkeley with a degree of Russian language and Russian literature.
That's correct.
Unusual choice, I must say. Why Russian language and literature? And maybe your favorite Russian writer and book?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I went, first 2 years of university, I was actually in New York City. And I went to Columbia. And taking Russian was just something to do. I was interested. It was like a cool language. When you're a kid, it's like, oh, it was like the evil empire kind of thing. But for a kid, that's like really great. It's like, and you want to, and the women and the sound of the voice and everything. It's just something that was really sexy and intriguing. And then it was wonderful to learn. And I've always been a really good student. I don't even have to I just get the top. I do everything really fast and then go down and party in the city. I still get the top marks. And I did that at Columbia, and that was 1 year. And then I went to NYU Film School for a year and started learning talk about that. But then I joined a band called Psychotic Pineapple, this band. And so there was a break. But then about 5-6 years later, I said, well, I'll get a degree. Why not, right? So I was just sitting in Berkeley. And when I looked at my situation of what I had done, there weren't, Russian, because I had been taking Russian, and I took Russian literature at NYU as well. That was a possibility for a facultet, for a major, for you have to declare something, right? And I wasn't in the university to make money or to have a job. It was just to learn, like a karate belt for your mind, It was just anything. And Russian literature was like, okay, I had read in Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche said, if you want to learn about life, science, okay, whatever, but literature is where you learn about life. I remember that quote from Nietzsche, I said, well, Russian literature seems to be a good thing for that. So I just dove into it as a way to become a better person and more intelligent or something, learn about life. So it was Russian literature. It was an instinct. And so I was glad I did it. We had some fantastic experiences there. But that was it. It was just something like that. So I went back, got a degree while I was doing my bands and stuff. But, like I say, it's like people want to work out and they go to the gym and they go to karate, they go to kung fu. I was doing that for my mind.
What did your friends tell you about your strange interests in Russian
Not at all
literature,
strange.
Russian
People in America love Russia, and they love Russian literature and talk about common ground. We love all these things, that...
You just hit me, by surprise, saying that Americans love Russian literature.
Absolutely. All my friends just think Russia's the coolest thing. It's just not... There's this whole propaganda thing, but no, everybody I know, all my friends are like, wow, they're just jealous that I'm here or whatever. They think... and all as we were growing up, Dostoevsky and was always the cool writer, and and you ask about favorite authors, it's really all of them. I mean, I was thinking a couple things about that. One, I remember this little story, couple stories stuck out. One, I think was Solovyov. I think it was about the Antichrist. That always stuck in my head, this scene of the Antichrist giving a speech and everybody going crazy. And then there was this story by, I think, Zamyatin about the most important thing. That stuck out. But the big writers, of course, Gogol, Dostoevsky, I mean, these are just wonderful. And the other thing I noticed they gave you they call a reader. They just give you like 10 pages from 30 authors, and they're all amazing. It's like, and then one thing that stuck out was like Solzhenitsyn, who was famous for politics in America, but it turns out you read some Solzhenitsyn, just his writing, not political at all, not at all political. It's just, but it was on fire. Like the words were just like coming out of the page. Like that's what made me think about the specialness of Russian literature and the talent that Russians have to write is so amazing. So it's all like, I don't even have a favorite writer. They're all my favorite. But if I had to say, I'd probably say Dostoevsky,
All right, let's get back to the music. Before we started our conversation, I read one interesting fact from Wikipedia. We know that Wikipedia never lies. This is why I need to clarify with you what was written there. Yeah. And there is a fact that in 2009 in Poland, you performed a live concert that lasted for 32 hours. And after this concert, you put it in the let's say highlight list, list of the Guinness World Record certificate. So the question is, okay, now we understand that this is true. Wikipedia, in particular this case, didn't lie. All right. So the question is, what was the reason for such a long concert, and was it difficult for you?
Well, okay, I'll tell you, that's good. It happened in sort of a flow of, I was living and based in Poland, in a wonderful city, Krakow, Poland. But I was playing concerts all over Europe, but all over Poland, and Wrocław, I think it was. I was walking down the street and I saw this club called something about Liverpool or something. So I was talking to the owner and I said, I know all 270 Beatles songs. Why don't we do a crazy concert where we get a lot of publicity? And then that evolved into somebody said, you got to make a Guinness record out of that. And I said, I happened to be in London at the time, and I went to the office of Guinness. And it was a funny place with cartoons everywhere. And I was talking to the manager, this woman, and she said, well, you can't play all the Beatles songs for a Guinness record because you need +1. For a record, you have to someone has to be able to beat it. So if you play all the songs, there is no +1. So she went on her computer and she said, here, just beat the record for longest solo concert. And so that was only 24 hours. I can do that. I can miss a night's sleep. And then it turned out I decided to go for 32 because somebody, as I was planning it, people were beating the record and it was going higher and higher. So I wanted to beat it by a lot. But now to get to your point of what's difficult, it's not hard for me to play 32 hours. But the thing I'd never want to do again was to make it successful. You have to do an unbelievable amount of preparation work, incredible amount. And we did everything. You can't imagine because they give you a book of rules. If you break one rule and everything is on camera and everything is, they're observers and if you make one mistake, you fail, right? So it's like to not make a mistake, you have to do all these preparatory things, and including like writing, I don't even want to get into it. It's like a million details, but we did everything. And, I played the concert, and then you take a big box. You have to put all your evidence and send it to London, and you wait and see if they give you and they gave us the thumbs up. They said, you did it. So they sent me the certificate. I could get into the details, but it's a lot of fun. Playing it actually was amazing. It's almost like a spiritual thing. When you're singing and playing for 32 hours without stopping, it's almost like one of those, from India, those high spiritual plane guys doing their, you go into different spiritual plane. You really go somewhere. It's mentally, I remember just getting pretty high on that, and it was really special. I did play the first 12 hours were all the Beatles songs from memory. Then it got a lot easier, actually, because singing Paul McCartney, high vocals is, takes some energy and strength. But then I started playing, more bluesy stuff and stuff a little easier to sing. But by the end, I was high energy. I was singing Led Zeppelin and Little Richard and my No Sleep, Only Rock and Roll. I had a lot of energy at the end because I was so excited that I succeeded. It was a big deal. There was at that point we timed it out, so it'd be 6 p.m. We were the number one TV story in Poland that day. There was all these TV cameras, and And you got to realize in the middle of the night, see, one of the rules is you had to have 10 people. So we had to even go outside and bring in bums and drunks and people, whatever, to sit there to make a minimum of 10 people. We needed a quorum, you know, we needed and so all kinds of crazy things were happening, you know, you can't imagine. And then, but ever since, you know, it's been so wonderful. Oh, and I would have, you know, I have a 32-hour MP3, you know, and I have, because we broadcast it back home, back to America. My friends were calling in and writing saying, hey, dude, you know, I was listening to you. I went to sleep. Then I went to work. Then I went to sleep again. And I woke up and you're still playing. You know, it's like, you know, so we had all this funny stuff. And then, you know, people saying, now your life has been redeemed and you know, you don't have to do anything. You know, this is like, something that's always been great for promotion as well. So like if I have a concert somewhere, the people whose job is to promote the concert, they love that. You know, people smile when they think about Guinness for some reason. It's a positive thing.
And what has happened after? Did you feel any relief
after
I'll tell
you
it?
What happened.
Or
the minute was over, there were all these journalists, TV, they did interviews. You can see it on, I'll send you the link. There's all these great interviews they did with me, and I'm all like wired like this. And then my friend said, oh, there's a carnival in town. Let's go to the carnival. So we all went to the carnival.
And played again for another.
I slept 6 hours later. It was midnight. I went to the hotel.
When did you come to Russia for the first time? And what were your impressions?
No, that's amazing because I was with a band in Berlin in 1989 and in the summer. And my producer, his name is Dan Alexander, great guy, and he had an idea. He said, Alex, I want you to go to Moscow because at Melodia Records, they have these wonderful microphones from Germany and Austria, these Neumann Telefunken, they have a whole lot of these microphones, and I want to buy them and see if you can do that. So I went, he inspired me, so I left my band in Berlin for a week. So I went to Moscow, and I had an acoustic guitar with me somehow. And I went to Melodia Records every day, and it turned out that we couldn't get these microphones because they destroyed them or something. But the thing was, but I got to see Melodia Records, which is amazing, and then talk to those people. But every evening, people told me to go on the Arba, go on the. So it was in 1989, there was nothing commercial there. There was, you know, a shashlik or a one souvenir or something, but it was beautiful, and just the buildings were beautiful. But people walking, talking about, you know, maybe politics or poetry or just reciting poetry, and so I started playing in front of Vakhtanga Theater, and attracting the same people. We started for 7 days, we would play for a few hours, and then we would. And at that time, people had rubles, but there was nothing in the stores, so they would throw rubles at us. So we would take this big bag of rubles, and we would go to the Hotel Belgrade when we were done. And when it's dark, there was no light. It wasn't like, you know, it is now. And so the sun went down, took the bag of rubles to the hotel, and a girl would come out who worked there, and she would take it and disappear. She'd come back with everything for our kvartirnik that night, right? Fish, vodka, bread, whatever. She'd bring back all this stuff. So we would go to somebody's kvartir, and we would party all night until we saw the old woman with a kvass outside, you know, or something. And so that was, of course, I fell in love with Russia. There's no question, you know. There's no doubt about it, you know. So this is what I wanted. So what happened? And then I can tell you how I came back for 6 months. That was 1 week. But there is a story of how my American band, got invited with work visas for 6 months in 1990, from April to October. And we played, you know, everywhere to Odessa, to Baikal, you know, Leningrad. We played, can talk about that. But if you want to hear the story of how that happened, it's kind of interesting because it started actually because of Arbat again. Somebody took a photo of me playing. And that photo appeared in the biggest newspaper in San Francisco, in the Sunday entertainment, what everybody reads, called the Pink section with pink pages. And there I am. And so what happened was there was this theater group called Arlekin that was based in Moscow area and Dzerzhinsky. And the leader is a guy called Sergei Melkonyan, and his helper, main actor, lieutenant, musician guy, whose name is Oleg Baranov. Later started a band called the Red Elvises. But anyway, those two guys, they came to San Francisco because they wanted to bring their whole troupe of 35 actors, kids, and they wanted to bring them to San Francisco, like a wild dream, insane idea. And they succeeded. But the first place they went was the biggest theater in San Francisco called American Conservatory Theater. And sitting in the office of the director happened to be my mom. And my mom was sitting there with that photo, and she said, "Have you seen this? You guys are from Moscow." And Oleg Baranov said, "Oh, I know that guy. I was singing with that guy on the Arbat." So that led them to meet me, and I met the big boss, Sergei Melkonyan. He's this brilliant Armenian guy, right, who could do anything. And he brought my band somehow. We played for 6, and then I really fell in love with Russia. 6 months.
There is no barriers for Armenian people, Alex. We understand our brothers from Armenia.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And so we deeply got into we had Dvajdi Dva, Komerchiyskiy Kanal, right? Our video was on that. So people knew who we were. There was stories on the subtitles about who we were. So we would take, the subway, we would take the metro, and people would recognize us. Our bass player, this big, long-haired, Indian-looking, American Indian-looking guy. And
Indian-looking guy.
And Bill Macbeth and Peter French, who we still play with. And we had a band called Alien Beachhead, is the name of the band at the time. But we played, that was when I really fell in love with Russia deeply, but there was a 20-year break after that. I was either too lazy to get a visa or something. So I missed that whole Brigada 1990s period of, the crazy 90s. And so I missed that, really, when the Russia, because I didn't come back until about 2012.
Okay.
Really.
And what does Russia mean to you today?
What is Russia?
Well, it's all about, it's a feeling like when I cross the border, I'm going back and forth, I go out and in all the time. I get a feeling, I can only tell you that I get this feeling every time I cross the border, a warm, strong, I love this place kind of feeling. And even, if I go to the border, the controls, whatever they say, "Oh, you're an American guy, what's going on?" And they're checking. Say, by the end of all that, it's just like, "Oh, come on," and it's like, whatever, doesn't matter, So and everything, like when I learned in '89 and '90, things flow for me here. This is about flow. My whole life, every day I get a phone call, come and do an interview at Radio Zvezda or whatever. I'm getting a phone call every day, something. I'm getting a message. Or I meet somebody. That happens to me all around the world, but more in Russia. Russia is the strongest flow. And it's maybe it's the history of the place or whatever, but so I'm always looking to whatever I can do to make Russia have a better future too, So it's like I'm aware of the negativity around the world, and so I'm always trying to kind of manifest a better road, and with the common ground thing, it's absolutely that, and I talk to a lot of Russian people who tell me, God, Americans and Russians have so much in common. It's just amazing,
Okay, Alex, let me ask you another question. You mentioned that after your first, let's say, Russian experience, you had a long split, a long gap. And as far as I know, in 2012, you founded a group, Alex Carlin Band.
Yeah, roughly.
And okay.
Right, that's right.
This time Wikipedia lies, okay?
It's close. It's good.
Close, okay. And as far as I know, the most of your concerts you perform in Russia, even in Crimea, and in particular in Crimea.
Yeah.
So how do you perceive, what's your impressions after the return of the peninsula to the Russian heart? Do you see or do you feel any changes in this region?
Well, I haven't been there in the last couple of years, but I would go there every year, and Sevastopol, amazing stuff. But what really sticks out in my head was a place called Fiolent as an example. There's a part of Crimea called Fiolent, which is the little area on the south end on the water, that people are living for free. They're not paying. It's been there for many years. I think recently, every once in a while, the police try to move people out or something. I don't know what's going on at this moment, but that's just it's such a free place. It's like, oh my God, this is like an alternate universe. Just everything is just amazing. You're partying, playing music, swimming, and say nobody is paying any money for anything. There's water coming from some source. And you're just getting. So it's just the mentality of places like that. That was the epitome for me of what made Crimea great. And it's not, I wasn't thinking about any of the political stuff. In fact, that's like, I never noticed, a change. It's just always been sort of the same place for me. I didn't notice any, because for many years it's been what it is now. It hasn't really changed so much. It's just that the technical who owns it has changed, But that's never, from a John Lennon point of view, who cares who owns it? It could be China. I don't care. It's like as long as the people can live their life, who cares who's the technical, I own this land, come on, that's very presumptuous, Humans don't own land ultimately, it's like they try and they write laws that they do, but from my John Lennon perspective, it's not really that true, It's just, we just play music. We go and we do a concert and whatever, and it's so like, I'm just, whatever I can do to make people happy, that's great, So honestly, I didn't notice any change.
So you didn't see ugly KGB agents that, killing people,
no,
kidnapping them?
Of course not. I did not see anything like that. I would occasionally ask people, what do you guys think of what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're cool with it. They were just, nobody came up to me and said, I want to be owned by Ukraine again. Like nobody said that to me. And although some of my Russian friends says, you should look into the Tatars and what happened with them. And, that's a complicated thing. But there are the people who have a right to be angry about what happened, the Tatars. So, it goes back. It's like, again, USA. What am I? I feel like I feel less comfortable in the United States because we stole the land from the original people there. The white people came in, and I'm not part of that ethnic group. But it's just like, the Israelis taking Gaza. It's like that's happening all over the place. Where is it the worst? What can we do to go forward with respect for people and with all this history of stealing land? It's like that's a universal thing. That's what my television show we're developing is about. How do you move forward knowing that somebody stole that person's land? How do you go forward without killing them as an answer, without a bomb being the answer, without a gun being the answer? Maybe there's other answers to stolen land, which is an epidemic. It's an epidemic. People just, I take your land. It's not good. But so that's why we do the music is like you say, it's a really strong tool and instrument for going through that and trying to get to a future that's better, and less murderous, somehow, less bombs.
In 2017, you were included in the database of Peacemaker websites.
Yes. Well, that was funny. That was interesting because, again, I would go to Crimea. I never thought about any of these things. And I'm sitting in Sevastopol, and I get a phone call from RIA Novosti. I'm like, wow, that's a big one. And they're really nice, actually. And they're saying, Alex, did you know you're on Mirotvorets, you're on... And I said, no, I didn't know that. And they say, well, yeah, and this is, let's ask you a few questions. And I said, oh, yeah, well, anything I can do to make Russians and Ukrainians back to being like family, like I knew in 1990 when I played in Zhytomyr, I played in Vinnytsia, I played in Odessa, I played in Kiev. Why are we not just family? What's going on here? So if there's anything I can do. So I would say, and so they interviewed me and they came out with the article, and I was so happy that they didn't change my words. They just, and I said things about, well, why do the American USA tennis players have no problem playing at Wimbledon, but Russian, when they just killed 1 million innocent people in Iraq? Why are the tennis players have no problem when the Russian tennis players have so many problems playing in a tennis tournament? It's like, so it would make, comparisons like that. And they liked that, of course, but it was still, I was saying things about, let's make peace, let's do what we can. And so they printed every word very well. Like in the USA and the West, you make an interview and they change all the words, they put it in whatever they want to say. But it's like, so I was very impressed with Russian journalism. And I was like, thank you so much. And it was like, so I have a link to that. It was a really nice article Ria Novosti wrote about that. And so, and then I realized I'm on the assassination list. Maybe someone will take me out and put a big X on my photo. Who knows, right? But it's like, I'm willing to go. I didn't have any choice on that. I'm willing to do that. I'll just go play a concert. And I do want to say, I was playing in Donetsk the day before. The night in Maidan when the Molotov cocktails and the guns and the coup, the violent revolution, the coup happened one night. And the day before, I was playing in Donetsk, and I had just because I had friends in Rostov and in Donetsk, and I just played there, And then but we were hearing about Maidan every Sunday. It was worldwide news. Everybody knew about Maidan. So I said, I want to go see that. So I took a train to Maidan. And on Sunday, I was there on this cold winter day, playing my guitar with the guys from Donetsk and talking to journalists. It was peaceful. People were just talking about things, and they just they were interested in joining the EU or maybe not. It was just talking. It was not violent, But that night, I was still living in Krakow. I went back on the train to Lvov and then to Poland. But we had a guy in the train who had the computer, and we watched. It was guns. It was Molotov cocktails. So I was there for that moment, that historical moment. I was there when the wall came down in Berlin. I was there when the Soviet Union ended. So whenever I go, the regime collapses. So it's like, that's just something like a Zelig kind of guy.
If you return to the US, it means that the current administration will collapse.
Well, I don't know. I try to take it to Washington when I can.
Okay.
It's like see what happens.
What do you think? How do you think? What was the main reason that you were included in this?
They said specifically you went to Crimea without asking Kiev's permission. It was straight up. You can't just go on the Kerch Bridge. You can't just go to Anapa and then take the bus like I do, like any Russian or something. No, you have to ask permission, and you didn't do that. That was the official reason. But they put me on, the actor I was proud to be faced my favorite TV show, like a Brigada, the Sasha, the guy.
Sasha Billy.
Yeah. So he's on the list too. So my face and his are on. I saw all 12 episodes of Brigada, by the way. I think it's amazing. And all the movies by Balabana, right? By Alexei. I love that, like Brat. Those movies are so incredible.
It's about mostly also about the relations between Russians and Americans. Because
some of it, Brat 2 definitely is, yeah.
Very famous film in Russia.
Yeah, and Brat 1 is just really incredible. So I get my face next to him in some of these articles, and with all these amazing Russian theater directors, and
Congratulations, you're in the top list.
Yeah, exactly. So it probably there's just I don't know what I think is these are just the things that you have no control over.
Okay, Alex, if we continue to talk about the Ukrainian issue, let me ask you one more.
Yeah.
Very interesting, and I think the question that our audience definitely are going to ask, so I will be their advocate. After the launch of the special military operation in Ukraine in February 2022,
right,
you did not deny or reject Russia like many others did. many of your, let's say,
Exactly.
colleagues, I mean artists.
Right.
So you still continue to support Russia in general as country, our people. You live here,
Well, of
at
course.
least for a while. From time to time, you are here. And first of all, have you ever experienced any judgment about this, about your choice? And what does your American, let's say, audience and friends, what do they think about your position?
Well, I mean, the question comes up and they say, what's up? What's going on? And I just say, look, number one, I want to stay there and represent and be the American in Russia with all of the positive ideas that I have of how to find a better road through this crisis, through this. I mean, this is like brothers and sisters killing their brothers and sisters. So obviously there needs to be maybe a better road or a better way, or try to make the best of it. And so you say, well, okay, well, what if you're in America and remember when they killed 1 million innocent people in Iraq? And what did I see all my friends go to Canada? No, they didn't go anywhere. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, of course, I want to stay in Russia and do everything I can from Russia, because that's a stronger position. Anyway, but I just don't want to leave anyway. Of course, I want to stay. But the point is, so I started thinking, what would be, of course, it's like I totally understood that, okay, the West is coming up to Russia in this very aggressive way. What happened in February 2022 did not happen because just for fun, it happened for a reason. There was a reason. And what was that reason? Oh, okay, there's this coming towards Russia of who? Aggressive NATO, armies and weapons and right to the border. And so wait a minute. So you can see, and you can see that in the history before that, the Russian government was saying, why don't you just let us be in NATO? Why don't you just let us? There was a lot of attempts. There were many, year after year, attempts to so that there wouldn't be any killing and any bombs. They tried a million things. So you get to that point where they said, enough is enough. Now, my position is, okay, well, my job is to say, let's find a way, even nismatra na to, что, blah, blah, blah. Let's find a peaceful way to every minute, to this minute, to the present minute. So that's why I did two things. I called all my friends like Vladimir Posner and Jeffrey Sachs and Noam Chomsky and all the top guys. I said, let's say, instead of bombs, let's get rid of NATO. Let's say, but replace it with Urampa, the European, American, Russian, Ukrainian peace alliance, like all Europe, like Gorbachev wanted, like a lot of Western people wanted, like all kinds of people wanted that to happen. And it didn't, because the aggressive people from the West wanted war and wanted all this, make money off all these, military businesses and things. So there was a lot of forces why NATO stayed, and it had nothing to do with peace, right? It had other motives. So I was saying, okay, fine, let's give NATO a really good thing to go away, and to then we replace it with Urampa. So Putin can say, I ended NATO. Ukraine can say, no problem, we're in. Everybody wins. It's like boom, boom, boom. ABC, everybody wins. It's over. That was at the very beginning. And people like Noam Chomsky and Vladimir Posner said, Alex, that's a great idea, except Russia might do it, Ukraine might do it, USA will never agree to that. Right? They all said this, right? Said, okay, that's fine. So we're going to start a TV show every week called Diplomacy Now, where every week we say, if you don't like my idea because you think USA won't go for it, you think it's not practical, just tell me your idea, but your idea can't be, we just have a bigger bomb and that'll solve the problem. No, that's not on my show. My show is innovative, creative, like a musician, like an art. You have to open that part of your brain, the creative half of your brain, and find this idea. And it might not come from me or you, but if we have a show, we can have outreach to somebody sitting in New York City in a basement who does nothing but have ideas about diplomacy just because he's an idiot savant or he's some kind of a creative genius on one thing only. We'll find those people and they'll come to our show. They're invited to the show. And I'll sit here with Vladimir Posner with a split screen, and he'll be there in New York with, some like actually, Katerina van der Heuvel also agreed to be on the show. A lot of great people have agreed to be on the show once we get it platformed. Because it'll work for Gaza, it'll work for Yemen, it'll work for anywhere there's a war. Because if you notice, the internet is full of brilliant, smart, fantastic people, but they never go to solution. They just go to a better analysis of why we have this problem.
So, by the way,
solution.
and from the beginning, once again, Alex, we know that you have elaborated your own plan for resolving military conflicts, including the ones in Gaza and Ukraine. Tell us about it.
Yeah, okay, well, I mentioned the one in Ukraine that was relevant when it was early on, and it's still relevant, I think. The idea is you get rid of NATO, because there's no reason for NATO, period. And intellectually, you cannot justify it. Soviet Union ended, that was NATO. What are you doing, right? It's nonsense. But you could have a European peace alliance called Europa. You just got to invite Russia and Ukraine, right? That just has to be the channel. You have to switch the channel to the future where it's going to be like that eventually. So why not do it now? Just get over it, and it's like, and work out the borders. You got to negotiate that, right? So that's just something, that's this creative solution. But the point, now for Gaza, it's, I call it cornucopia. It's like a new nickname for Gaza. You're not changing the name of a nation, but you're saying cornucopia means the endless drinking and food, like an ideal utopian thing, right? You change the channel in Gaza to this. You're saying all that money that's going into the bombs, it's incredible amount of money they're spending to kill people there. That money would definitely pay for you rebuild right on the beach, quite enough buildings, so all the Palestinians would have a wonderful, restored place to live where they were living before. But guess what? They don't have to pay any money for it. It's all free. And they get a great job working together as a demonstration with Israelis like they did for centuries before 1948 and all that. They were getting along. By the way, Palestinians are Semitic people. It's not anti-Semitism. Palestinians and Israelis and Jews, I'm Jewish. It's just Semitic people, right? And so they've gotten along for centuries. So in my plan, Cornucopia, all that money goes into business, like creating like a Singapore on the beach, beautiful Mediterranean sand, and you get some tourists and all this stuff to have some economy there. But it's about working together. Palestinians, change the channel. Boom, you'd stop it right now. And so, of course, the guys in Tel Aviv who are in control, right, who just want to kill them, I mean, those people, we have to overcome that. That's what you always have to do that. That's just, it's extreme right now, unfortunately. Let's say I think it's very bad for Jews what they're doing in Israel. The Israeli government is the worst thing that ever happened to Jewish people. Jews in America are totally against this murder. I mean, this is genocide. This is insane. It's almost like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I should be like tying myself to a train track. It's just, it's genocide. It's like we are watching on our cell phones. Genocide. Right in front of our face. Babies killed every day. How can we even have this show? How can we have this radio show? It's crazy, right? It's that bad. Nothing in Ukraine is even comparing to what's going on in Gaza right now. Gaza is just not, it's just absolutely kashmar. It's like, so that I'm just saying it shouldn't be that hard to try to create a new, but you need a new creative idea. Like all these brilliant people on the internet, they're just kind of complaining. They don't go to solution. They're just saying, oh, it's so horrible. That's all they ever say.
And as a part of solution, I know that you have a song dedicated to the Cornucopia.
Well, I can play a little bit of that just for and the concept is to get a Palestinian and an Israeli, two singers, to do a duet. That's what I'm working on. I'm trying to find. Of course, it's very dangerous. It's what I'm talking about is to get a Palestinian to sing this or an Israeli to sing it. They would both be looking over their shoulder, who's going to like hit them, because it's like, that's traitor. But I still believe this is the future. It's like cornucopia, cornucopia, Palestinians and Israelis working together. Cornucopia, cornucopia. It's got kind of a catchy melody, right? It's like, Oh, I've got this one clever line I want to play you because it goes, check it out. It's a place for working together. It's a land for thriving together. So don't be such a critic. After all, both groups are submitted. Now wait a minute, I got another clever one. Palestinians have the right to return to free rent, to good jobs, with a right to earn, because just like the Israelis en masse, Gaza has a highly educated working class.
Perfect.
So this is, I believe it's the song that makes it happen, right? It's like you get an Israeli and a Palestinian to have a hit record with that, a hit video, and then, oh, maybe. Of course, it's, like I say, we're talking about life and death. We're talking about, that's what could be considered, something that would be dangerous to do publicly, right? So I don't want to be, getting people killed or anything like that.
Friendship is
but you gotta try. You gotta
these days.
try.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was there actually, not that long ago. So yeah, so I've got a song for everything. It's like my mom told me this, right? She's 92. She's still more energy than me, and she's like, Alex, you're trying to. I tell her, I'm going to solve the Gaza war, the Ukraine war, and the climate and cure cancer, and then we're going to eat dinner. I'm going to do everything, And she says, that's fine, but I don't doubt you, but you got to write a song for each thing. So I've been doing that.
What about the song for the dinner? When everything is done.
Oh, I did. I'll send it to you. I've got a video. Where it was her 92nd birthday, and we did a whole thing on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the questions. Alex,
Hey.
we need to get back to the questions. So you mentioned already that you spent quite a lot of time in Russia, but you go in, out all
That's
the time. And you have, let's say, maybe 3 decades of instant relations with our country. And I must ask you the obvious question. Did you ever think about the Russian citizenship and Russian passport?
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
I want to have somebody say, Alex, here's a Russian passport. Yes, it would be great to have 2 passports. I like my American passport, and I would love to have a Russian passport as well. I'd like to have 2 passports.
Okay,
Why not?
because now it's some sort of a trend, because a lot of famous Americans like boxers Roy Jones Jr. or
Sure.
Jeff Monson, from wrestling,
Right.
and
Yeah.
or French artist Gerard Depardieu.
Yes.
All of them applied to get Russian passports, and
Yeah.
they got them.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do some. First, my dream is to do something really great for Russia, and I have a couple ideas I could talk about. And one of them has to do with climate. Like, we're really close to doing this amazing climate solution in Dalny Vostok, actually, in the Vladivostok area, Sakhalin area. I want to just do something really strong for Russia and then just say, and have that be the sort of context of getting this passport. Or if, who knows, at some point I think I'll get it.
One more thing.
Yeah.
You are also a film director.
That's
we know.
right, award-winning film director.
Yes, and your teacher was also Martin Scorsese's
That was
mentor.
his teacher, yeah, amazing guy, Haig Manugian, yeah.
Yes, tell us please about this part of your life. We know that in 2021 you made a film about life in Russia,
Right.
Alex in Russialand.
Exactly, yeah.
Very interesting to hear your comments. And let's see a fragment from this film.
I fell in love with Russia when my American band was invited to tour the Soviet Union for 6 months in 1990. Right after we left, the regime collapsed. But I'm like John Lennon. I imagine there's no countries, only rock and roll.
Well, here's the thing. My band, Alex Carlin Band, right? I've got, Dennis Matwizo on drums. I've got Andrei Samoylov on bass, and we play in every city of Russia constantly. And so I would have all these adventures. So I would come back to America every year or so, and I have these wonderful friends who are producers of, everything, movies and books and all this. And they say, Alex, you tell us these unbelievable stories. We got to make a movie about this. We got to. So finally, I got it to. I have a wonderful partner. His name is Anatoly Goranesco. He's an incredible filmmaker. And he works, he does the Olympics and he does all kinds of events. And he's really good at what he does, and we get along great. And we decided that he would be the team leader and we would, of the film crew. And so we started developing this concept, and so we got the money, and we realized, okay, they're just going to follow me around. They said, Alex, you just, wherever you go, something happens. The party happens, something crazy. We're going to be like invisible, and we're going to capture the magic, capture the lightning in the bottle, right? So and they were so good at that. We had all these little funny things happen, and they caught it on film. And so just going around, we went to, Stary Oskol, and we went to the Black Sea, we went to Anapa and places like that, and we just did what we'd normally do. And even in Moscow, and we had a lot of fun in Moscow, and they just captured these moments. But then it's all about the editing. So I was sitting actually in Sevastopol at the time with all the hard drives from incredible hours of filming, and I watched every shot, and I took a note. I wrote down which hard drive, which file, and what happened. And so I made took me days, to make all of these notes. And then I looked at it and said, how am I going to make this into a movie that's going to be fun and be really a great movie? Because I'm studying, Eisenstein and Ziga Vertov, and I want to make it good and, have it be, So I have a standard, and Martin Scorsese. So I did that, but what I did was I created 14 emails, and I brought it back to Anatoly, who lives in Istra. We went to we had all the big computers and the big screens, and we started editing, he and I. And so you can imagine all the blood and sweat that went into this movie to make it really fun. So you go from the beginning to the end, and you never want to stop watching. So we started going to the festivals. In St. Petersburg, we won an award, and we won an award in Butkinsk, and all these places, and brought it to America. And we showed it in Hollywood at the famous Grauman's Theater. We won an award. And then what brought tears to my eyes was in Las Vegas, we won Best Editing. And I'm like, oh, thank you. It's like, they appreciated that because it was the best editing, right? So, and then at that point, it just became, we want to do more. And the producers say, you guys got to do more movies. So, there will be more.
And we know that you like to travel around Russia by train, and you even have the song dedicated to Russian railways.
Exactly. And when you say, why do I love Russia? One of the big reasons is RZD, is the train system. And before I play it, just a couple words about why and what's going on. I've been all over the world, and there's no train close to how good RZD is. And it's many reasons. One, it goes from everywhere to everywhere, every hour, constantly, for such small money that anybody can buy a ticket. I mean, it's like other countries, it's expensive. It's more, in America, it can be way more money than an airplane to ticket, just a train. It's stupid, it's crazy. So you have, it goes from everywhere to everywhere. You have your choice. You can get a coupe, but in Platzkart, it's a big party. It's like, I'm going.
It's like Kvartirnik, right?
But not only that, people want to sleep sometimes, but there is the Vagon Restaurant, the wagon, the restaurant car on RZD. I mean, other countries, it's like, you can't do that. But in Russia, in RZD, I got this guitar, the director, it was like, no problem. It's like we're playing, we're singing, they're staying open all night when they might want to, So I go, if I have a chance to go, like from Moscow to Chita or something, 5 nights, I don't care. I'm there I don't want to take a plane because I have 2 guitars and too much stuff. And airplanes are, problems with guitars. And I would rather just have fun on the train. Meet people, write a song. It's one of the only times I've even had a chance to sleep at all. I just have so many things going on, I don't even have a chance to sleep. At least on RZD, I can go to sleep sometimes. But anyway, but RZD is wonderful. And so we wrote this song, and it started with that. On the train, it's got that rhythm from the track, it goes. You hear that a lot. It's just sort of like, that's part of a train, you know. So we start with that on the drums. Then it goes like a. People always asking me, where do you live? In a house or in a flat? I'll tell the man I used to do that stupid stuff. But now I got a way better place than that. Now I live on Zvezda. It's the Russian rock and roll railroad. Zvezda. Never been on a better track than on Zvezda. Zvezda. Once you go, you never turn your back. Zvezda.
We must say that the PR specialist of RGD must hire you because their job is sucks compared to what you've done now. The better advert is hardly imagined.
Oh, wait. Now I do have. Let me tell you a little story because I have this idea. Because I love RGD so much, I want to offer this theme song to the RGD Corporation, to whoever they are, as their promotional song. I don't want any money. They only want one thing. And it goes back to Peter the Great, Peter, when he was in the forest and he got stuck in a bear trap that caught his leg, and a farmer, some serf found him in the forest and freed him. And Piotr said, "Here, we're going to give you a tattoo, and when you do this, you go to any bar, any tavern, and you get free drink." Right? That's where this came from. This Russian tradition.
This one.
Yeah, this one. So that's.
Yeah,
but
correct.
I said, I don't want free drink. I just want to be able to go to the Casa and do this, and I get a free ticket to anywhere on RGD. It'll say RGD tattoo, right? And I just go like that, and I can go anywhere. And so I've got it. So that's what I'm working on, to meet the right director.
I think it's negotiable. It's possible.
So, I think...
We're mostly done. Maybe we'll ask you something personal, if you don't mind. In Russian pop music, especially pop music of the past, between late 80s and early 90s, there was a famous song. The direct translation means that music connected us. Музыка нас связала.
Wow.
And as far as I know, you follow this advice and you have something special in your pocket.
Right, exactly. Muzyka это наш общий язык. Музыка это наш общий язык. Общий язык. Hey, now come on. Я не говорю по-русски. Я не говорю по-английски. Я говорю по-рок-н-роллски. По-блюзски.
Amazing.
Thank you very, very, very much for this
Thank you.
very interesting conversation.
Yeah, взаимно. Очень приятно, очень круто. Мне очень нравится это радио Zvezda.
Alex Carlin, American musician and composer in our studio. And Alex, so we hope to see you again in our studio for continue.
It was a real pleasure. You made our day. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you. No, спасибо.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks now.